And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. In late May 1936, temperatures in the north climbed as high as 35 degrees Celsius, causing snowmelt and flooding conditions throughout BC, Alaska, and the Yukon. A Terrace farmer stated, "We lost about 12 acres of land in 3 days. The river was like something gone wild. Great waves like rollers came down the river carrying chunks of land, trees, and lumber." On today's Open Connection, Terrace Deputy Fire Chief Dave Jepson.
Right now, for us, the big thing is just watching the spring happen. You know, the concern is always, are we going to get high water this year? Are we going to flood this year? So right now, for the fire department, we're in a lot of planning stages. You know, we have a lot of different meetings that are going on in the region with other municipalities, other government officials. You know, obviously, we're all watching the snowpack. You know, I understand it's like 130, 140%. So, you know, that's not a lot of snow. It's just snow, right? If it comes down all at once, then we're in trouble. So right now, when we look at it, the rivers have lots of room to absorb that and can take the water. So, you know, that last week of phenomenal weather that we just have, that was good. That was starting to get a lot of the underlying snow and starting to clean that up. Big rains on top of, followed by warm, obviously gives us more concern, but right now we're just in the holding pattern and monitoring river conditions. A lot of rain will bring the snow down real quick, which will obviously, because now we've added that extra precipitation into the rivers as well as melting the snow, so that gives us a huge rise. The other times we've had it was like in the 07 floods, really hot spells during the day and not cooling down at night. Like if you notice the last few weeks that we've had here, you know, it's been 14, 20, 25 even a couple days, 20 for a couple days, but then it goes down to like 2 or 3. Well, that's awesome for us because then that just kind of tightens everything up and prevents that continuous thaw, which brings our water levels up. You know, so far this year, everybody's just been awesome as far as going out into the wilderness. There's always a risk in springtime as the snow starts to thaw and weaken. There's great pages, you know, websites that you can go to like BC Avalanche or Canadian Avalanche. They have a phenomenal page. Mount Remo Backcountry, they have information on their page. So whenever you are traveling, you want to you want to look into that to see if it's safe in the conditions. But what we've found is people that are going back there obviously have the skill and the knowledge. So that's good. As far as thawing and putting themselves into that, normally that's not happening. It's more people traveling and going to the waterways during the beginning of the spring thaw. Kind of like with the floods, we're in a bit of a holding pattern watching. We've already started our meetings with regional representatives with other fire services, forestry, other big companies. A few years back when the conditions were really poor, you know, and precarious for us, a group of people got together and brought all the players to the table. And at some point in time, I think that there was 12 or 16 different agencies there. What if we have a fire? What if we have it in this certain spot? How can we help other agencies? What resources are out there in the event that we start to have it? And then as the weather starts to change and the conditions become more favorable for a blown open, you know, fire or a forest fire, then we're, you know, getting more into the detailed plans and what. But right now it's what resources are in the area. We're definitely monitoring the conditions. We rely heavy on Ministry, you know, of Environment, heavy on the forestry crews. We work, you know, all the time with them at the airport, you know, getting their guidance. They're the people that work in the forest. They're the ones that know that. So we really take direction from them. In town, we've already started to have grass fires. We've already started to have backyard burns. So as we lose the moisture in the snow, the risk starts to go up. We're always evaluating burning. We currently have a no burning policy in the city of Terrace without a permit and certain permitted fires, just because we're already seeing the risk. It is starting to dry out, and that brings danger to our citizens and even our crews. So you are allowed to burn in your backyard for the purposes of cooking or enjoyment. Enjoyment doesn't mean put 10 pallets on. Enjoyment doesn't rip your deck off and burn construction material. It is truly a small fire pit contained with sides, you know, and cooking hot dogs, or, you know, sitting around and, you know, having a beverage, you know, later in the evening, controlled. Compared to, I have yard waste or building waste, which I want to burn, and obviously that's not allowed. And it's frustrating sometimes because we have people burning in their backyard. You know, they grab all the wet leaves, they grab all the wet grass, and then they dump it on the fire. Well, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to smoke. Well, when you set your neighbor's smoke detector off, you're not following the rules, and you're not being a good neighbor. So when people phone and complain that their neighbor's burning, we have to act on that. And, you know, 98% of the time when we go there, if that's the case, we encourage them, sometimes with our help, to put that fire out and eliminate that risk and eliminate that concern.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Multiple studies have shown that visual aids are very useful in absorbing information, and generations of Canadians are familiar with Smokey the Bear. This year, Firesmart.ca introduces Ember, a Firesmart fox. Let us return to the conversation with Dave Jeffson.
One of the great sites that we're using, and we work with them, we have a great FireSmart program here in our community. You go to that web page and there's all that information in there. Call the fire department, we can give you a list of those sites. You know, reality is common sense. You know, obviously if there's a danger of that fire catching, but when we talk about burning and enjoy, you know, having a fire that we can sit around and enjoy, it's in a contained area. So we've already eliminated a lot of that risk. We're not burning it beside grass. We're not burning it underneath a tree. We're not putting wood on there that's not supposed to be burnt. So, you know, it's practical reasons. You know, as we start getting, you know, closer to the houses, you know, there's more of a risk. So, you know, one of the common numbers is, you know, 30 feet away or 10 meters away. When we go through FireSmart, there's different types of fuels and different distances that we encourage people to cut. In the event a wildfire or a fire in the region happens and a spark lands in your yard, a lot of those smaller fuels are burnt off or containable so it doesn't get to your house. So the same thing when it comes to, you know, our backyard burning, our backyard recreational fires where we're enjoying it. That's totally different than yard cleaning. You know, it's been a roller coaster for everybody. All emergency services are feeling the pain. You know, obviously there's restrictions for our members. The Terrace Fire Department follows the direction from the City of Terrace. The City of Terrace follows it from, you know, Ministry of Health. You know, obviously Dr. Bonnie is awesome. She's coming up with different ways to keep us all safe, so we follow those rules here. So training took a hit. For quite a while we had no training going on at the fire department for our members. You know, going to calls, we've restricted certain types of calls that everybody's going to go to try to eliminate the what if. You know, if you're going into a suspected COVID person's house, the last thing we want is 4 people going inside. So our policy now, following the BC Ambulance's procedures, is very strict protocol on PPE. Assist BC Ambulance crews and limit how many people go in. So if half the crew stays outside, then that's what we do, because we want to try to lower any exposure that we possibly can. Moving in and around the fire hall, for example, you know, we have restrictions on our gym. You know, there can't be any more than 1 person in a gym at a time, because you're going to be in proximity to that other person. And we know that the highest way to get COVID is being in proximity for more than 20 minutes within, you know, 4 to 6 feet of that person. So we obviously are eliminating that. When you see the fire trucks driving around town, anytime that there's 2 firefighters in there, they're always in the masks. Again, that's a city policy that we're trying to do. So it is affecting us. It's affecting the calls. It's affecting cleaning. You know, I always question what's going to happen. You know, they go downstairs to the gym, they go to the trucks, and they're using all these chemicals and all these things to, you know, to kill a bug that you can't see, but you got rust, you have, you know, eroding, you have, you know, melting plastic. So, you know, you have to be very careful in the mixture. We have set processes that we have where, you know, everything is wiped at the fire hall twice a day and it's monitored. You know, all the ways to try to eliminate COVID getting into our crews and into our members' lives. You know, it's hard to kind of put a number to it. We've had a few where we know for sure we're going to a COVID person. We know for sure we're going to a death in the home. At that point, we don't know if it's COVID. A lot of times we go to assist the ambulance service. We help remove the subject. We may never ever hear that they were COVID or they weren't. You know, out of courtesy, a lot of times they'll phone and say, hey, by the way, that person in the car crash, that they just got confirmed they were COVID. So then we review everything. Did we follow all of our policies? We write it in a book because that's considered a hazard, you know, material or a hazard occurrence, and we want to record that for our members. It's awesome. You know, it wasn't in town a couple weeks before it was starting to go to crashes. It has a lot of equipment on it. Not, you know, there's some new equipment on it, but it's spaced out differently, so it's easier to access. Once the crews arrive on scene, you know, they can change inside more comfortably. You know, with a walk-in cab between the front and the back, very easy to control your members. Members can, once you're parked and safe, now they can go straight into the back and starting to prepare what task is needed, what equipment is going to be needed. So it's been a great truck, obviously, for us, and you know, it responds to all over the different parts of our region. It's awesome. It's much safer for our crew, and it just enhances our abilities to continue to assist the public.
Did you get that again?
That was bought through Associated Fire out of Vancouver. The truck itself is an E1, which is made down in Florida. You know, I think the truck is almost coming up to 2 years now. Obviously, the provider was E1. The people who we dealt with and built the truck was Associated Fire out of Burnaby. Everything is different. You know, the noise is different, the gear is different. The safety element was huge. You know, part of the cost of this truck was to making it safe. The other part of the cost was, you know, advancing and enhancing the services that we have in the region. You know, we know that we're preparing for, you know, a lot of industry to come here. A lot of activity on the highway, so, you know, we're modifying and working with the crews on this truck. You know, what can we add to what's, you know, do we need specialized equipment? Do we need bigger equipment? Do we need smaller equipment? And this truck and the space has allowed us to do that.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. In July 2020, British Columbia Search and Rescue recorded a total of 333 search and rescue events involving almost 3,000 members, most of whom are unpaid professionals. Let us return to the conversation as Dave Jeffson shares about the new Search and Area Rescue Building.
Terra Search and Rescue, we're just so proud of what we've done. It's obviously been a team effort to get us to this stage. Community effort. We would never be here if it wasn't for the community, regardless of whether that person was here, you know, with a bobcat, an excavator, or donated money. You know, we've had little kids bring money. You know, we've had older couples bring money. We've had, you know, teachers. All walks of life people have shared. Many times it's not just the check, it's a card, it's a heartfelt thank you, you know, it's a post on our Facebook page saying thank you. That goes a long way, so that's really driven us to try to get us to this stage. So behind me you can see is obviously our building, 6,000 square feet down on the bottom floor or ground level. Second floor is 3,600 square feet. That's going to be our classroom, kitchen facility, sitting room, and a couple offices. We haven't started working up there as far as, you know, gyprock or whatnot. We're running some wires. We're just looking for funds to finish that. We need to spray the ceiling. We need to add a whole bunch of stuff to it. And right now we want to make sure that we're flush. We have money to continue the project, so we're just in a little bit of a holding pattern right now as we kind of search out and look for more funds to continue. Obviously, we can't do in person. You know, we've had some people who have wanted to donate that haven't been able to come and have a look. I believe once we get a potential donor inside our facility, hands down every time they want to give. They see the enthusiasm, they see the work that the community and our team has put into it, so they're always wanting to help out. So that's definitely affected COVID. So obviously you can see in all the big bay doors. Right now we are still under a temporary occupancy. We can't be using the upstairs because we don't have fire exits in up there. It's an unusable space. So right now, and it has worked in our favor with the different restrictions that COVID is offering us or forcing us to follow. So we are using it. We can run searches out of it. We hold some meetings. Most of our meetings have gone to Zoom or Teams to limit exposure. When we do training, we have a lower amount of people that could actually come and take part in that training. And then again, following, you know, Dr. Bonnie's protocols, obviously everybody's 6 feet apart, everybody's in masks. And so it's tough to do. It's tough to do first aid, you know, 6 feet apart. It's tough to do rope rescue when you're 6 feet apart. Tough to host classes when you have to follow all the rules. You know, there are certain training disciplines that we can continue doing under the COVID rules. We just have to be careful how we follow those, because obviously the rules are very strict, and we want to make sure that, number one, the health and welfare of our own members is the best. We always have to remember that when we decide what is essential training or what is not essential training. You know, a perfect example to that, you know, we could turn around and say a tracking course is important, but is it essential? Compared to a swiftwater course as we prepare for our flood time, or an avalanche course in our winter season. So that's how really we start to juggle essential training for our members to be able to continue to provide the service to our community and our citizens.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
When the COVID-19 pandemic began, daily life as we knew it ground to a halt. Vacations were canceled, reunions were postponed, and the world outside clamored to cope with the new realities of COVID-19 inside their four walls. A recent survey revealed 50% of the Canadians decided to do some sort of renovation project. In this final segment of Open Connection, Dave Jeffson shares some of the projects slotted for the new SARS building.
Downstairs, there's still some painting, a little bit of drywall that still needs to be done, some trim on the doors. You know, we haven't moved everything in. You know, we've had an awesome donor that's allowed us to store our other rhinos and some of our boats over at the other place. So just because we're still painting and we're doing the odds and ends, we just haven't moved that stuff here. So stuff like that. Like there's the back wall in the lower section needs some more gyprock, or needs to be sanded out more and then painted. So there's little bits like that. But you know, we have one bathroom out of the two that are functioning. You know, our gear room, you know, both of our gear rooms are complete. We need T-bar ceiling in a bunch of those areas that still need to be done. The large bathroom, handicap bathroom with the shower in it, still needs to be completed. And then different wiring, internet needs to be completed. What's worked really good is just contacting any member of Terrace SAR. We do have an email address, you know, new SAR Hall at Terrace, or in Terrace. Our Facebook page is a good avenue to contact us. That many people have done that. The other one is our actual web page, Terrace Search and Rescue. If you go on there, there's a link to join that, and emails come to us and say, hey, you know, I saw your stuff in the paper, I saw your stuff on the radio, on the news, we'd like to support, or can somebody give me a call? We are in the phone book, 635-4669. We have an answering machine, and if somebody says, you know, hey, give us a call, we'd like to talk to you, somebody contacts that person right away, and just to make sure everything is okay. And then ultimately, if they do want to donate and they're thinking of us, we try to come up with different ways that they can do that, which meets their desire to help us, and then our goal to continue to raise more funds. We have 7 active executive members. We have separate teams. We have a first aid team, you know, we have equipment team, we have a building team, you know, people that are looking after different things. So, you know, when we started going down this road in 2017, you know, it was obvious we can't stop doing search and rescue activities to start to try to build a building or to fundraise. So as an executive, we were very clear to our members, you know, to give us the mandate to go forward and try to find money to build a hall, that we need to also keep training. We have to continue to buy equipment to make sure our members are safe and that they can provide a service. We have to make sure that we train. You know, it's ongoing. You know, we have new members. You know, we were really torn this year with our new GSAR group with COVID. Can we actually do it? New process. You know, we took 12 exceptional members who we believe fit the criteria of wanting to give back to their community, who want to give to our own organization, who want to show up and help, not just for one task or one discipline, but to actually spend time making SAR better. So it's been a balance. And, you know, the 2 pieces of equipment that we just talked to, you know, we had an older Zodiac, I think it was 1990, 1991. It was starting to cause leaks. So we can't be on a call at 3 o'clock in the morning in the river and, you know, have a Zodiac lose air. So that was a perfect example. You know, we started to have, you know, a huge increase in our winter calls. You know, this year we had some bad calls this year, but, you know, when we look at the big number of calls, you know, a lot less on the winter and snow calls that we had in the past. So we were gearing up this year as, you know, if we have to get out and travel in the backcountry with some sort of a machine, what would that be? And the team that looked after that went with the Polaris Ranger. So it's just an example of a balance that you said it. All of us have jobs. Everybody has a different discipline that they want to take part in or excel at, whether it's backcountry skiing, whether it's swiftwater, whether it be tracking. You know, we just continue to ask our members to give more, come and help at the hall, you know, go and take a course, try to fundraise if you know anybody. So it's a full picture, it's a full package. It's not just, you know, 1 or 2 little things. You can imagine, you know, we're probably running 60 members, and you know, we go to them all the time asking them to give more, and we're very fortunate that they continue to step up, you know, personally to help them, you know, themselves get better and safer, but, you know, also because I think they believe as well that they're doing a service to our community, and that's rewarding when you can do that.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.